the second mechanism you're going to learn to make is called an internal stand. Now this works on a landscape type of card, and as it opens the mechanism pops up. And the reason it's called an internal stand is we have these stands behind your imagery, which then allows your elements to pop up. So this is what we're going to create during this video. So what you should have is 2 pieces of A5 card in front of you. If you just put one to one side for the minute and work on the one that you have got in front of you. First thing we need to do is to measure up 1 centimetre from the base of the card on the left. Then do the same on the right and draw a line going across between those 2 points. Now this is a guideline, so it only needs to be fairly faint. It doesn't need to be pressed too hard on the card. Now that we have done that, we are going to measure from the left hand side edge of the card to the right 8 centimetres. Now we want to do 2 lots of these, so if you place your ruler, you can either place it on the very bottom of the card or you can place it on the line you have just drawn. Doesn't really matter, as long as the 0 is matched up with the left hand side of your card. We're going to do a little marker at 8. Keeping the ruler where it is, we're then going to repeat that further along, another 8, which is to 16. So 8 and then 16. Repeat that at the very top of the card. So match the 0 up with the left hand side edge, marker at the 8, and then again at the 16. You're going to match those 2 points together and very lightly draw a faint guideline going down. So what we've now got is 2 sections. We've got this 1 centimetre at the bottom and these columns coming down at 8 centimetres in width. This is going to be the section that we draw the trees in the background in. So we've got the width. What we need to do is now divide it up so that we have the trunk and the space for the actual bush part of the tree. So measuring from the line that you drew, so not the base of the card, but the line at the 1 centimetre point, you are going to measure up from that line 5 centimetres. So that should mean the 6 is level with the base of the card, the 5 is level with that line, and then you can do a marker at the 5 centimetre point. If you then do the same on the furthest vertical line that you have drawn, so again we're coming up 5 centimetres from the line, 6 centimetres from the base of the card, and then again as soon as you have those 2 drawn, draw a faint line going across. It only needs to go up to that second vertical line though. We don't need to go all the way across to the edge of the card. And then the last thing that leaves is we want to repeat this 1 centimetre section at the top. So we're just going to measure down 1 centimetre on the left hand side edge, 1 centimetre down on the second vertical that we've drawn. So it's not the first one, it's the second one, not the furthest edge. Again, 1 centimetre down. Match those 2 together like we always do when we draw these markers, and again a faint guideline going across. So what you should have is the 1 centimetre section at the bottom, 2 sections that are 8 centimetres and 5 centimetres in height, the 1 centimetre coming down from the top, which then leaves us with a nice big section in the middle. So this is now ready for us to draw in our trees. With the bush part of the tree, try not to do too smaller sort of circle areas because you're going to have to cut this out. So if you do really small bumps for the tree, it's going to be a hell of a job to cut it out. So try and keep them quite big. Try and stay within that area as well. So you don't want to go too small with it. Don't need to go all the way to the lines, but you just want to create the bush effect. We can then add the tree trunk. Now, when we attach these to the backing card, the tree trunk needs to be quite thick. So make sure you're drawing on quite a thick tree trunk. You don't want it to be really, really thin. Obviously, you don't want it to be too thick that it looks silly, but just a good thickness to the tree trunk. You can always add on a couple of wavy lines to give that idea of the wood grain, so you can see that it is the tree trunk. You're now going to repeat what you've just done in the section on the other side, because remember we have 2 trees in the mechanism. So just a nice big bushy part to the tree. Remember, if you do them too small, you're going to have a really hard job on your hands to cut these out. Draw on the trunk, make sure you don't make it too thin, and then again we can always just add in some of the little lines to make it look like a tree trunk. We can match our ruler and just draw the base of the tree in, so just to finish off, pressing nice and firmly with the pencil so that we have the 2 trees drawn. What we're going to do is we're just going to cut this section away, because we're going to use this spare bit of card. So along that line you've drawn to the right hand side of the furthest tree, if you just cut that off, we can put this part with the trees to one side for the minute, and then we've now got this spare part of card in front of us, which has got the 1 centimetre section on the left hand side edge. So for this, what we are going to do is we want to draw a line across the bottom that is 1 centimetre up. So same as we did with the other piece of card, we're going to measure 1 centimetre up. Now this is obviously on the long edge, not the short edge going up. We can then match these together like we always do with the guidelines and draw a faint guideline going across. Now this piece of card we are going to use to draw out the bushes that are going to go in front of the house. So these are going to be 6 centimetres in width. So this time we're going to measure from this vertical line that we've already drawn on the card, and we're going to measure 6 centimetres to the left. So if you place your ruler either on the bottom of the card or on that line that we've already drawn, just make sure the circle lines up with that vertical line. And then if you put a marker at 6, keeping the ruler where it is, do another one at 12, because similar to the trees, we've got 2 bushes that we need to draw. If you then repeat the same at the top of the card, so we're going to do a marker at the 6 and a marker at the 12, and then like before we match those up and just draw a faint guideline going between the 2. The last thing for this is to turn them into the bushes. So like you did on your V-fold, we're just going to draw, starting from the base, a bubbly type of bush coming up from that base line. Remember, don't do too many, otherwise you're going to have a bit of a job cutting them out. We then draw in the base of those bushes nice and firmly using the ruler. And there we have the 2 bushes drawn out on our piece of card. So what we can do now is, like with the tree trunks, put this to one side, and you now need to grab your second piece of A5 card. What we're going to use this one for is to create the house. So we've got the trees already drawn and the bushes already drawn. The last thing is to draw the house. So like how we've started the other pieces, we always create that 1 centimetre section at the bottom. So we're going to mark 1 centimetre up from the base of the card. We're going to match those 2 together and draw our faint guideline going across. Now that we have done that, we can start to draw on the house. Now the house is 10 centimetres in width. So if you place your ruler, again, either at the base of the card or on the centimetre line we've just drawn, as long as the 0 of the ruler is lined up with the left-hand side edge of the card, you're going to measure inwards 10 centimetres, put your marker. Then going to do the same at the very top of the card. We can then match those together and draw our faint guideline coming down. So now this section here is going to be the area we're going to draw our house. So the line at the bottom that you've already got, that's going to be the base of the house. The height of the actual house part, not the roof, is going to be 6 centimetres. So if you place your ruler again on the edge, match the 6 with the line you've drawn, not the base. 7 should be lining up with the base of the card. And then we do our little marker. We then do the same on that vertical line that we've drawn. So 6 centimetres up from the line, 7 from the base. And we can match those up. Now this time, this is the top of the house, so we can actually press quite firmly with our pencil. We can also go over the other 2 lines to make up the side of the house. The roof of the house is also going to be 6 centimetres. So we're going to measure from the top of the house that we've just drawn 6 centimetres up and do a marker. You should be becoming pros at measuring and marking because we've done it so many times now. Again, match those together. And then what we need to do is we need to find the halfway point on that line that we've just drawn so that we've got the middle, so we can then come down to create the roof. So this is obviously 10 centimetres in length, so half of that is 5. So I'm just going to put a marker at the 5 centimetre mark place. And then I'm going to match that with the top of the house to the right, draw my line in nice and firmly. And then the same to the left, and again pressing nice and firmly to create the roof. So now that we've got the main structure, we just need to add the door, the windows and a chimney. So with the door, what we're going to do is we are going to find the halfway point on our house. So if we place the 0 and the ruler at the very bottom of the house, so 0 is on the left hand side of the card, the 10 is on the farthest right, we know the halfway point is 5 centimetres, but I want you to draw the door 2 centimetres wide. So we're now going to put a marker at the 4, which is 1 centimetre to the left of 5. And then the same at 6, which is 1 centimetre to the right. So rulers at the bottom, lining the 0 up with the edge of the card, the 10 up with the edge of the house, and we put a marker on 4 and then with 6. If you bring your ruler up ever so slightly to the base of the roof and do the exact same thing, so a marker at the 4 and then a marker at the 6. We can then match these 2 lines up. So the first 2 markers, we're going to match them up and just draw a faint guideline going all the way down. The second 2 lines, we're going to match those up. We're going to draw a faint guideline going all the way down. But before you remove your ruler, we're just going to draw a line going from the roof upwards. So the diagonal part of the roof upwards. So we've got the 2 lines coming down from the base of the roof, but then we've just got this little one going up. The reason for that is going to help us create the chimney. So this has given us the width of the door. The height of the door is going to be 3 centimetres. So we can measure from the base of the house 3 centimetres. So it's 4 from the base of the card, 3 from the base of the house. We can then do our markers on both of those vertical lines. And then we can match those up and draw a nice crisp line between the 2. And then we can finish off the door by coming down vertically. Add in a circle for the door handle, and the door is drawn for us. What we can now do is add in our windows. Now we need the windows to be sat central on either side of the house. So what we're going to do is from the roof, so from the base of the roof, we're actually going to measure down 1 centimetre from both ends and then draw a faint guideline going across. So from the base of the roof, 1 centimetre coming down, and then draw a faint guideline going all the way across. We're then going to do the same from the base of the house, so not the base of the card, because we've already got a centimetre coming up. It's the base of the house, the part that the door is sat on. So we're going to come up 1 centimetre on both ends, and then match those together, and we can draw a faint guideline going across. You don't have to draw it across the door, you can draw them either side as long as they go across those 2 areas. So now this leaves us coming in 1 centimetre from both ends of the house. So all we're going to do is come in 1 centimetre from the left, 1 centimetre from the right. So if you were to place your ruler with the circle on the left hand side of the card, you're doing a marker at the 1 and a marker at the 9. If you then bring your ruler down, do exactly the same, repeat the same action. Match these together. And draw your faint guidelines, and we've now got that coming down. So we've now got a 1 centimetre section across the top, down the sides and across the bottom. All that now leaves is a 1 centimetre section either side of the door. So all you need to do is measure 1 centimetre to the left of the door, 1 centimetre to the right of the door. You will notice that the guidelines we drew originally for the door still go all the way up to the base of the roof. So we can just measure 1 centimetre to the left of the first line and 1 centimetre to the right of the second line. And now when we match these up together, you will find a rectangle will form in the middle of those 2 areas. They are to become your windows. So using your ruler, you can just press nice and firmly with the pencil to highlight those windows. Now we've got the outline of the windows, that just leaves the cross like you did in the V-fold to create the idea of the window. So we're going to find the halfway point, which should be 1 centimetre at the top of each window. Repeat the same task at the bottom. We can then match the window on the left, those two lines together, and press nice and firmly going down. For the second window, the one on the right hand side, we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to match those 2 points together. We're going to press firmly and draw the line down on the window, but we're then going to keep the ruler where it is, and we're now going to draw a faint guideline going up from the roof to the top of the card. And what you should then find is this will create the chimney for us. So we can then press firmly and create that chimney on top of the house. Finally, that just needs the line that's going to go across. Now we've already got a line on here at the right place, and that's the top of the door. So if we just place the ruler and match it up with the line we've already drawn for the top of the door, we can then just press firmly both sides of those windows and draw in a line that goes across. And what we've now got is the house drawn and ready to go. To help us with this for cutting out, before we cut everything out, all we're going to do is cut this house away from the spare bit of card on the right. So just cut down the furthest right hand side edge of the house and place this spare piece of card over to one side. We're going to need that in a minute, so we don't want to lose it, so just place it to one side. You can then grab all of the other pieces that we've drawn, so the 2 trees, the 2 bushes and the house. What we now need to do is cut all of these out. Unlike the V-fold, these do not need glue tabs at the bottom. So for the house, you can cut that 1 centimetre section off of the bottom. You can then cut along the roof. Be careful not to cut the chimney off. As soon as you get to the chimney, you want to come up vertically. Just take your time. This should be much easier than the V-fold because it's just a lot more straight lines. We haven't got the smoke like we did in the V-fold to have to cut out from the chimney. So the house should be nice and easy to cut out. Place that to one side. You can then do the bushes. So we can cut straight along the base of the bush and then carefully, hopefully you followed my instruction and didn't do too many bumps on your bushes, and just carefully cut that out. Do the same for the second bush, so cut straight along the base, cut around the curves, so you have your second one cut out. And then finally, that just leaves your 2 trees that need to be cut out. So cut straight down the base of the trunk and then carefully cut around those trees. Obviously, with this being a prototype, we're not expecting them to be perfect, but you need to practice taking your time and getting your accuracy really, really spot on with when you're cutting out. So especially when you start to make your final pop-up card, we don't want to see any jagged, messy cut lines with your mechanism, depending on which one you choose. So just carefully cut each of these out and putting them to one side for safety when you've cut them out. Hopefully it shouldn't take you too long to cut these out. The more we do these prototypes, hopefully your cutting out time will speed up, because you'll get used to how to use the scissors, especially on curved parts of a shape. Don't worry if you're not cutting exactly to the lines that you've drawn. These are prototypes, it's just guidelines. As long as we get the right effect, as long as we have two items that look like trees, two items that look like bushes, and then the house, we will be fine. So just get these cut out, and then as soon as they're done, we can start looking at how we're going to assemble the internal stand mechanism. Make sure you keep all of your little offcuts and things, and they go in the recycling bin. So tidy up as you go along. It's a lot easier rather than having to tidy at the very end of the lesson. So what we should have is 2 trees cut out, our house cut out, and then the 2 bushes, so that we have those. Once we've got these, we're now ready to start looking at how we're going to attach this to the backing card. Now, with the backing card, you will notice that we have the internal stands, if I turn this aside, that hold those pieces in place. Now, these are separate pieces. Okay, it's a bit like the bridging tab for the V-fold that we did between the house and the bushes in front. And we now need to measure these out and create them. So if we start with the house first, so place your 2 trees and your bushes to one side carefully, so that we've just got the house in front of us. Also, grab that spare piece of card that we had from when we cut the house. These internal stands are going to stick to the back of the house. Now, we don't want the internal stands to be any wider than the actual item we're going to be sticking on them, or any taller. So if we look at the house, the measurement for the internal stand, if we did it 5 centimeters, it's not all the way to the end, but it's a good chunk that it will hold the house in place. So we've already got a 1 centimeter section on our spare piece of card. So we're just going to measure 5 centimeters from the left and do a marker on that line. Then do the same at the top of the card, slightly higher up. We can then match these 2 together and draw a line going down. For the house, you will notice that it is in front of the tree. So the trees are at the back, the house is then in front. The gap between the trees and the backing piece is 1 centimeter. The gap between the house and the backing piece is 2 centimeters. So what we need to do is this 1 centimeter line we've got at the bottom, we are going to extend that up by 1 more centimeter. So we now have 2 centimeters. So if we come up 1 more centimeter and draw a line in. Now press nice and firmly on this, because we need to know that this is the one we're going to be looking at. So this is our 2 centimeters. So now this area here, which is the 2 1 centimetre become 2 centimetres. That is going to be glue tab number 1. So if we do glue tab GT number 1, so we know what I'm going to be referring to as we go through. We then need to draw our bridging tab. So this part here glues the base of the house to the backing card. The next part we're going to draw actually sticks to the back of the house. So we want this to be 6 centimetres in height. So we're going to measure 6 centimetres from that line we've just drawn on both ends. Again, match this together and draw a nice firm line going across. So this section now in the middle, we're going to label this glue tab number 2. From here, we now need a further 2 centimetres. So we're going to measure 2 centimetres up from this top line we've just drawn above glue tab number 2. And we're going to match that up and draw that together. And this now becomes glue tab number 3. And the final bit at the top is going to become glue tab number 4. So now we've got this, we can just cut this apart. So we're just going to go straight down this vertical line. It's the only one we need to cut. And then we need to score on each of these lines that go between the glue tabs. So you've scored before with the V-fold, open up the scissors, make sure your fingers aren't on the blade. Place your ruler on the line and just slightly press down. You can hear it score against the card. Once we've done that, they should then fold nice and easily, so that we then have something that looks like this. Okay. So the last bit for this for now is to get this glued to the back of the house. So we're going to put glue on glue tab 2. Now with these, it's really important you get the glue right up to the lines. So you want to make sure you get glue right up to the line between glue tab 2 and 3. And also between glue tab 2 and 1. And then some glue across the middle. So you've got a good amount of glue on that middle section. Now this is where sometimes people go wrong. So the house should be laying upside down, so the pencil markings should be down on the desk. Your visual markings for your glue tabs need to now turn around so you can't see them. We're going to fold the bottom glue tab 1 up so that we can now see the writing for glue tab 1. The rest are behind. And this folded edge here, we're now going to match up with the base of the house and try and get it in the middle. And you're then going to press and glue that down. So that what you have is glue tab 2 is stuck to the back of the house. Glue tab 1 folds at the base. And then glue tab 3 and 4 are also free above. Once you've done that, if you just place that to one side, because that's ready to stick to the backing card when we are ready to do that. And we can then look at doing the trees. Now, your measurements for these might be slightly different depending on how thick you have done your tree trunks. So if I take my ruler and measure, what you want to do is you want to find the thinnest part of your tree trunk. If you've done like me, slight curves coming in for the tree trunk, the thinnest part of that tree, you want to measure how wide that is. So if I look at mine is about 2.5 centimetres. You don't want your glue tab to be the exact same width, so I'm going to make mine 1.5. So I've got a little bit of spare gap either side. So what I'm going to do the spare card that we've just cut when we did the glue tab for the trees. I'm going to measure 1.5 centimeters in from the left, and then keeping the ruler where it is, I'm going to do another further 1.5. So for me, that's at 1.5 and at 3. Now yours obviously depends on how thick your tree trunks are. If your tree trunks are quite thin and you can only do 0.5 centimeter or 1 centimeter, then that is the width you're going to need to do. You then repeat the same at the very top. So for me, it's the 1.5 and the 3. Again, it depends on what yours will be to the thickness of your tree trunks. We can then draw those down. So as I said a minute ago, the trees are 1 centimeter away from the backing card. So the first glue tab needs to be 1 centimeter, which we've already got because we had the 1 centimeter previously drawn on the card when we drew the house. So that can stay there for the glue tab at the base of the tree. The height of the glue tab that actually sticks to the back of the tree can be quite high because the tree is actually quite a high item. So we don't need to go all the way again to the very top, sort of about halfway up to the bush part. So mine, it's about 9 centimeters, would take me to about the right area. So I'm going to measure 9 centimeters up from that 1 centimeter line, not from the base. And I'm going to do 2 markers either side and then match these up together. So again, like we did before, we can add in our glue tab. So this is for the 2 trees. So glue tab 1, glue tab 1. These then become glue tab 2, glue tab 2. Once we've got those, we need to do another 1 centimeter because we remember we mirror the first glue tab above glue tab 2. So 1 centimeter up, draw a line across, and these now become glue tab 3. And then the bit at the top, we don't need to measure that, but that is what we're going to have as glue tab 4. So once you've drawn all those out, you should have something that looks like that. We can then cut these out. So instead of cutting them out completely, if we cut just down the furthest edge of the 2 together, we can then score these lines while the 2 are still held. It just makes it easier instead of having a really thin piece of card to score. Remember, it's easier to place your ruler over the majority of the card. So for this one, because we've only got the 1 centimeter, it's easier to spin it round, make sure your card is over the majority of the card, and then you can score that section. We can then fold these like we did the other ones. And if you scored nicely, they should fold really, really easily. So we've now got that shape. And then we can just finally cut down the middle to create our 2 internal stands, 1 for each tree. Once we've done those, we're ready to attach these to the back of the tree. So, like before, we're going to put glue on glue tab 2 first. So we want to go all the way up to the line near glue tab 3. And then all the way down. Be careful because these aren't very wide, not to get the glue on yourself or on the table. Holding, so remember your tree with the pencil marking should be facing down. We then turn the mechanism, the glue tab over so the glue tabs are facing down. We then fold glue tab 1 back on itself so we can see glue tab 1, and then this folded edge matches up with the base of the tree, and then make sure that it sits perfectly in line with the trunk. It doesn't go over any of the edges, so that you're left with glue tab 3 and 4 still visible and not glued down, and glue tab 1 at the bottom. Repeat that on the other tree that we've got. So remember, be very careful with your glue not to get it anywhere it's not supposed to be. Tree is upside down with the pencil markings facing down. Glue tab markings face downwards. Glue tab 1 folds up so it's visible. Folded edge against the base of the tree, and then stick that down. And again, glue tabs 3, 4 and 1 should be still visible on the back of the tree. And again, put these to one side, and then all that now leaves is to do the same for the 2 bushes. And we've thankfully still got one piece of card left over, which should enable us to do this. So these ones, the trees are quite short, the bushes are quite short, so we're not going to need them as long as the other ones. So what you want to do is measure how high up the glue tabs can go. So you want to look at the lowest point in your bush and see how far. So mine, so potentially I can go up 1.5 centimeters. So what I'm going to do to begin with is I'm going to now make these the same distance from the house. So I've got, the trees are 1 centimetre from the back, the house is going to be 2 centimetres from the back, and then the bushes, we're just going to use the same height that we make the mechanism as the thickness going back. So depending on how well you can do this with your bushes will depend on how far you go back. So it might not be the same measurements as mine. So as I said before, mine will allow me about 1.5 centimetres. So on this piece of card, you can turn it over to the clean side where we've got no markings. And I'm now going to measure 1.5 centimetres up from the base and draw a line going across. I'm going to repeat that again, another 1.5 centimetres from that line. And again, match those together. So yours might be 2 centimetres, it might be 1 centimetre, purely depends on how you drew your bushes. And I'm going to repeat that again, another 1.5 centimetres. This time, so what I've got here is I've got glue tab 1, glue tab 2 and glue tab 3, and they are all the same height, so they're all 1.5 centimetres in height. The last glue tab 4, I don't need to be the same height, I only need it to be 1 centimetre. So I'm going to measure 1 centimetre above glue tab 3, match that together, and then I can write glue tab 4 on there. Now you're going to repeat exactly what you've done on the other end. So what you're going to do is just flip it around. So now the ones you've drawn at the top and the empty side is at the bottom, and you're going to repeat exactly the same thing. So I obviously did 1.5 centimetres up from the bottom and drew a line. That was glue tab 1. I'm then going to do another one coming up. Again, this is now glue tab 2. One more at the same measurement, so 1.5. Match those together. And the final one, glue tab 4, was 1 centimetre. So then I've got that on both ends for the bushes. Before I cut this out, while it's one whole piece, it's going to be easier to score. So I can just use my ruler and my scissors like we've done before and just score along each of those lines. Once you've got those score lines done, we can now cut this. So I'm just going to cut along the top of glue tab 4 on each one to take this middle section away, so that I'm just left with these here. So I can then fold these up so fold in between each of those glue tabs like we did before. And the final thing is to stick these to the back of the bushes. So same thing as always, turn the bush down so the pencil markings are on the bottom. We're going to put some glue on glue tab 2, just glue tab 2 at this stage. Remember, we then have those markings facing down. We fold up glue tab 1 so it's still visible, but everything else is underneath. And then you're just going to match the folded edge with the base of the bush so that sticks behind. Repeat for the second bush. So glue on glue tab 2. Keep that folded over so glue tab 1 is visible. Turn your the bush over so pencil marks are facing down. Glue that down on the edge. So we've now got that stuck together. So what we should now find is we've got the 2 bushes with those stuck on the back. We've got the 2 trees with those stuck on the back. And we have got the house with that stuck on the back. So all that leaves for us to do now is with a piece of A4 card, which is going to be our backing piece of card, we're going to fold it in half carefully. Press nice and firmly along the crease so that we've got our card that's going to open and close. We're going to stick the trees in first. If you just put the house and the bushes to one side, and we want to grab the trees. So what we're going to do is, if you lay your card out flat, if you use your ruler and match it up with the folded edge that you've got, so you might want to fold the card ever so slightly, place the ruler up against it, and then with your pencil just draw a line going across. This just makes it easier to see where the middle line is on our card, and then we know what we're going to be doing and seeing where we're going to be gluing to. So if we grab one of our trees, first thing we're going to do is going to put a bit of glue on glue tab 1. So just a nice little amount of glue all the way up to the edge on glue tab 1. Turn your tree over so you're now seeing the mechanism on the back. You want to keep glue tab 1 flat so it's nice and level with the tree, and we're now going to place the tree on the back and side. So you don't want the tree to come past the edge, but place it as far to the edge as you can go. Match the base of this glue tab with that line we've just drawn to show the edge of our folded piece of card in the back, and then press that down, and what you should find is then that will fold up on the edge of the card in line with our center piece of card. If you then repeat the same thing on the second tree, so we're going to put glue on glue tab 1, turn it over, and again place it as close to the right hand side as you can so that it doesn't go past the edge. Make sure it matches up with the middle. It is vital that these match up with the crease line, otherwise all the measurements and the work you've just done is going to go to waste. Now we've got those there, the base of the trees are now stuck down. The next thing is to stick these parts to this part of the card. So keeping these folded down so that you can see glue tab 3 and glue tab 4, you're going to put glue just on glue tab 4. So we don't want any glue on glue tab 3 Careful not to get glue on any other part of the tree, just on glue tab 4. Then all you're going to do is keep these two held down, grab your card, fold it up and over, and then press nice and firmly down where those trees are. And what you should find is then when you open this up, those trees will pop up from your card, and they will be 1 centimetre away from the backing piece. Now that we've done that, we're ready to add in the house. So we can actually lay this card back flat now. The way that the internal stands work means it can go flat. We're now going to grab the house. Same process, glue on glue tab 1 first. So just some glue on glue tab 1. Be careful not to get it anywhere other than glue tab 1. So take your time. We're then going to turn this over, exactly like with the trees, make sure it's nice and flat. We're going to now match this part up with that line and try and get it roughly in the middle of the tree so that it's nice and even. And then glue that down. And now you should find that the house is now stuck in, and again it works from the base. And then exactly like before, we're going to fold the remaining glue tabs down so we can see glue tab 3 and glue tab 4. Put glue on glue tab 4. Again, get no glue on glue tab 3 or on anything else, just on the glue tab. And then keeping that held down like we did with the trees, we're going to fold the whole thing back over. Press nice and firmly in the middle section where that house is going to be. And then when that pops up, the house is now popped up in front of the trees. Now all that leaves is the bushes. So again, if we flatten this down ever so slightly, we're now ready to add in the bushes. So again, repeating the same step as we did for the trees and that house. Glue on glue tab 1 first. Turn it over. Now this time we're going to match this glue tab with the front of the house and try and match the left hand side edge of the glue tab with the left hand side edge of the house. So just place it there and glue that down. Same with your second bush. We're going to put glue on glue tab 1, turn it over, glue it down in level with the right hand side of the house. Careful you don't accidentally go underneath the house. Remember, the house is slightly not stuck on this part, so just roughly line it up. Now this is where you have to be careful. We need to put glue on glue tab 4. However, because these are quite close, if I fold, so glue tab 3 and glue tab 4 are visible, trying to add glue to that, I'm accidentally going to get glue on the house. So for these ones, we just fold up glue tab 4 and put glue on just glue tab 4. So same on both, so just fold up glue tab 4 and put some glue on that. We can then fold them down so that both glue tab 3 and floor are visible. And then the last thing again is just to hold them flat, fold the card down and over, press nice and firmly on the house and the whole part, and then what you should find is they then pop up in front of the house. So what you've then got is the house popped up, we've got the trees at the back, the house in front, and then the bushes in front again. And the beauty of this mechanism is you can keep layering up as long as the distance between the base of whatever the image is and this edge of the card is no bigger than the item, you are fine. So when these trees fold down, they don't come past the edge of the card, because we've made sure that the height of the trees does not exceed the gap from the base of the trunk and the edge of the card. So I could add another little house in front of this, another row of bushes, can add quite a lot to that internal stand. So that is what we should have done for this prototype.